Hello and welcome to another Toffee Blues video, your source for all things Everton. I'm Louis and this is a player ratings coming off the back of our first Premier League win of the season, a 2-1 comeback win at Goodison Park over Crystal Palace. Start with the game as a whole. First half, really poor. Probably the worst I've seen us play this season. I didn't watch the Tottenham game, to be fair, but really struggled first half. Crowd on the backs of the players as well, a lot of pressure, big game, as every game is for Everton. However, obviously, with the way that we started the season, we really needed to get off the mark. And credit to Deitch and Coleman by all accounts as well at half-time, and the players. Second half, they came out, point to prove, and they proved it. I managed to secure all 3 points in what was an excellent second half performance. I thought we defended valiantly for most of the 90, but particularly second half. And we had that threat going forward as well. You could see with the new signings linking up with Mcneil and co. And it was a good afternoon in the end at Goodison Park on a day when it didn't look like it was going to be after the first half. But it's important that obviously Everton build on that now. I'd also just like to say at the start of this video, the refereeing standards in the Premier League are, as we know, atrocious. However, I thought Andy Madley yesterday had a really difficult afternoon. Consistently poor decisions. Not too sure how he is employed at the top level. For me, again, opinion piece, but really struggled. So I just thought I'd get that off my chest because I was not a fan of his performance yesterday, and he certainly didn't help me heart towards the end of the game either. But on to the ratings anyway. We'll start with our goalie, Jordan Pickford, 7 out of 10. Dealt with a long-range strike really well in the first half, showed good, clean hands like he always does. Most pleasing thing for me as well, I know that he scored off a corner. For me, nothing he can do with that one. However, second half in particular, up against the threat of the likes of Mateta and you know the big centre-halves that Palace have got, he commanded his box superbly. There wasn't one where you saw it come in the air and you're thinking, where's your goalie? He was out every single time. So good performance from Jordan and a 7 out of 10 for me. Ashley Young next, 8. People won't like that, I'm sure, but I thought Ashley Young was exceptional yesterday. Superb performance from the right back, up against the threat of whether it was Nketiah, Eze, whoever it may have been. He defended expertly against them, used all of his experience, didn't get done once, and had a huge part to play in the first goal as well. So there's times where he's rightfully criticised. You've got to give him praise when he does well, and that's 2 performances on the spin, by all accounts. Again, didn't see the Leicester game, but 2 assists in a row and a fantastic performance yesterday for me. Michalchenko next. I thought he struggled first half. Got done by the centre-half at one point for an early Palace chance, and you could question him for their goal as well. Once Tarkowski gets sucked out, can he pick up Gay? But second half, again, I thought he settled. He was much better towards the end of the game. Really strong aerially as Palace peppered our box, and a 6 out of 6.5 actually. I'll change my mind on that. 6.5. I thought he had a decent game by the end, but obviously you can see he's still playing his way into fitness. Next up, the 2 centre halves. There was 4 standouts for me yesterday for Everton, and Tarkowski and Branthwaite were certainly 2 of them. We'll start with Branthwaite. What a bonus it is. What a massive difference maker it is having him back in the side. His presence, the way that he commands that back line alongside Tarkowski, that partnership that they forged over the past year or so as well. And you can just, for such a young player, the experience of which he plays with, there's almost a calmness to it. Whereas, you know, with all due respect to other players who've played in that position this season, if you think of Bournemouth at home, as soon as they scored one, you're fearing in case they get another. With Jared, it felt like even at 2-1 towards the end, you felt a little bit more comfortable. He was just an absolute rock, as he always is, and it's obviously great to have him back. So an 8.5 for me, for, in my opinion, Everton's best outfield player. However, I did think man of the match for me, slightly biased because I rate him very highly, but Tarkowski, I thought his leadership was second to none yesterday. In the first half, as obviously Goodison was getting a bit restless, and rightly so, the performance was dire. You needed a calm head. That's exactly what he brought. You could see, obviously, Pickford behind him, tended to dish out the talons off, shall we say. Tarkowski kept his head, managed the back line, won all of his aerial duels, didn't get done in behind once. Some vital blocks as well in there, big tackles. And then second half, just didn't look like he was going to get beat at all. I thought he was magnificent. And he's coming for a bit of stick as well, Tarkowski, which I think is harsh. I actually think he's, Brighton and Spurs aside, I think he settled into the season quickly. The two, obviously, disasters at Bournemouth and Villa, I actually thought Tarkowski had a good game. Wasn't a fault for any of the goals, and it's almost like he's been lumped in with the defensive frailties when, for me, it wasn't really his fault. So, obviously, having Jared next to him as well will settle him a bit more, but I thought he was fantastic again, in a good performance from him. So, an 8.5 for the pair of them, and how great is it to have them both back in the side. On to midfield now. Mangala next, really impressed with him. Thought first half he was arguably Everton's best player. Screened the back four superbly, read the game really, really well. Tidy enough in possession as well. And it's great having options in there as well. Obviously, I'll come on to Decore in a second. He showed that over the past 2 weeks again that he can play in the midfield. You've got Jimmy Garner on the bench, Tim Arobinam as well. So we've got options in the middle of the park now as well, which is good. And as I say, Mangala, 7.5 for me, and a good performance. Tired a little in the second. I thought Deitch was right to bring him off, but a good performance from him. Doucouré next, I've given him a 7. I thought he really struggled first half. I thought him and Lindstrom, it was one or the other over who might get subbed in the first half, but credit to him, second half, whatever Deitch said to him at half time clearly worked, because he come out second half, lively, legs, engine, typical Doucouré, and was just an absolute nuisance for Palace on an afternoon where Everton had to fight to get 3 points. They had to really play for the shirt, and Doucouré, he's going to do that, and he stepped up big style second half, so credit to him, 7 out of 10. Lindstrom next, 5 out of 10 for me. Wasn't his day. Struggled in possession, couldn't really get in the game, and as I say, for me, rightfully taken off for Jack Harrison, who we'll come on to in a moment. Dwight Mcneil next, another one of the standouts, 8.5. Took both goals fantastically. Obviously, the first one is a screamer. Second one does really well to control the volley and to read the scenario as well. Doesn't go flying in, waits for it to come to him and then finishes. But that since he's moved into the 10 this season, obviously, I'm sure you've all seen the stats of his goals have improved, his chances created, all that kind of stuff. But the link up that he's managing to forge, the partnership he's forging with Iliman Ndiaye to his left is really exciting for Everton this season. You can see any chance that we're getting is coming down that side. Ndiaye drags the ball up the pitch 20, 30 yards. McNeil's never too far away, can link up, Calvert-Lewin in behind. It's just nice seeing us move up the pitch and feeling like we might score a goal, which hasn't happened for a few years. But Dwight McNeil in the number 10 is a massive part of that, and you can see how clever he is in possession as well. And he's a footballer, Dwight McNeil, and another good performance. So an 8.5 out of 10. Ndiaye next again, the fourth of the 4 standouts for me. 8.5, fantastic. What a signing from Thelwell and Deitch. One of the most exciting players I've seen in an Everton shirt in a long, long time. When he gets the ball, you feel like something's going to happen. And first half, when we were under the cosh, he was straight back in defending, helping his team out, which doesn't go unnoticed, especially for Sean Deitch. And then any chance that we had in first half was coming through him. Any time that we were under the cosh, needed to get out, he'd drag us up the pitch. He's just a fantastic player. He's really, really top draw and a great signing. So an 8.5, and as I say, that link up with McNeil is only going to get better. But a great performance from Ndiaye. Calvert-Lewin next. We didn't think it was his best game, actually. Calvert-Lewin's quieter than he usually is. However, he did occupy both centre-halves, and you can see for the goal as well, the reason why McNeil gets a little bit more time and space is because of the threat of Calvert-Lewin. He was still strong in the air, linked up well enough towards the end as well. Obviously set Doucouré through for the late chance too. So a decent performance from Dom, but not quite to the levels that I think we expect. But a 6.5, and he's still in good form. He's had a great start to the season, and he's Everton's number 9 for a reason. He's a top striker. Subs next, Ghana and Garner, both not really on long enough to be fair, but solid enough when they were there. So a 6.5 each. Nice to have Garner back as well. And then Harrison changed the game. I'm a fan of Jack Harrison's. I think the work rate he puts in alone is crucial for Everton, and when he can turn it on and get his deliveries right and his link up good enough, he's a threat for us, and obviously set the second goal up expertly. Great ball into the box, great touch as well off Branthwaite to knock down. And yeah, 7.5 for me. Changed the game when he come on, and I made up for Jack Harrison as well, because you can see how hard he works, and probably rightfully taken out the team, having not had a brilliant start to the season. Um, but as I say, it's pleasing for him that, again, an option from the bench can change the game, something that we've not seen for a long time at Everton. So whilst we can't get carried away, because obviously it's the first win of the season, it is a win. It's a step forwards. We've now got to build on that going into Newcastle, but hopefully we can start being a little bit more positive and look up the table, because there's not many great sides in the Premier League. There's a lot of teams that Everton can take points off this season. We should have already in multiple games, and we haven't. So hopefully this can provide the players with a little bit of confidence and ease some pressure on Sean Dyche, because as much as people might want him in, they might want him out, uncertainty at the top of the club isn't good for anyone. So hopefully we can start continuing to win games and move up the table. Thanks for listening. Anyway, a lot easier to make this week, having won. First league game I've done this where we've not collapsed in embarrassing circumstances, so a lot better doing this. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Up the toffees. Come on, you Blues.